Só porque nem sempre preciso de você não quer dizer que eu nunca precise, Catnoir. Ninguém nunca vai te substituir.
Ladynoir have my whole heart. What better way to end an episode than with a sunset scene? So I guess that concludes Ladynoir's argument arc. The angst is over. Or is it? Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. It's your girl, the cartoon hotspot, and I'm back again with another analysis video. And it's been a while since November, our last episode being renounces. But nonetheless, in today's video, I'll be analysing the latest episode, KURO NEKO, which is episode 23 of season 4. Okay, I'm not going to beat around the bush. This episode was amazing. Does it have some flaws? Yes. Is it significantly better than most of the episodes we've gotten this season? Absolutely. It gave us character development, which I'll be going ahead to analyse in depth. But both a moon and sunset scene, which you guys already know what that means. Symbolism time. So if you want to hear my thoughts, then don't go anywhere without giving this video a thumbs up. And if you're new to my channel, welcome. Be sure to subscribe and click that bell button for post notifications. Without further ado, let's begin. So we'll start by breaking down the episodes, and at certain points in this video I'll be sharing my thoughts on how this may have benefited both Adrien and Marinette's characters. The episode begins with Adrien at home watching the news as Ladybug and the rest of the heroes defeat Gigantitan. Is Hawkmoth starting to run out of ideas? Did he not learn the first time that akumatizing a baby is just not the brightest decision? He's not a smart one, is he? It's no surprise that he hasn't made any huge progress since season 1. But Hawkmoth slander aside, Clara Contard interviews Ladybug and she questions if her and Catnoir are arguing, to which Ladybug responds no, and he's just a partner like everyone else in the heroes team. With or without Catnoir, the heroes will always be there to protect Paris. This of course upsets Adrien, and Plague tells him not to be dramatic because, to be honest, Ladybug's statement wasn't insensitive or rude. She never said that she didn't need him. She only said even when Catnoir isn't around, that's okay. Sure, it might not be convenient, but Paris will always be protected because that's what matters the most. Then Rogercop gets akumatized literally seconds later, and Adrien unenthusiastically transforms and meets up with the rest of the heroes. By then, Rogercop has already been defeated, and Ladybug tells the heroes to go wait for her so she can collect their individual miraculous. Catnoir offers to help since he knows some of their identities, but Ladybug says she's got it covered since it is her responsibility. Despite this, he keeps persisting and kinda gets on her nerve. She snaps, understandably, and tells him that if he wants to help her, he should stop wasting her time. Look, I get it. Should Ladybug have snapped? No. Do I know why she did it? Yes. Is she mean? No. Because the fandom has a bad habit of painting Ladybug as this cruel and vile person when she's far from that. It's called being human. If you say something and someone isn't listening to you, of course you're going to get a little bit annoyed. I'm sure we've all snapped at someone at some point. Whilst Catnoir's offer to help came from the right place, he kinda also did it for his own self-satisfaction, to reassure himself that Ladybug does need him. So when Ladybug yelled at him, he said she might as well take his miraculous too, and at first she didn't know what he meant by that, but when she did realise, she immediately went back to look for him. By then she was too late and the ring was gone, meaning Adrien renounced his miraculous. And I can understand why Adrien feels this way. Again, Adrien suffers from low self-esteem, which not a lot of people pick up on. We always talk about Marinette's low self-esteem, but not Adrien's, because his low self-esteem is from a different root of a problem. When you're constantly being shut down by a controlling father and being told what to do and how to do it, never for once having a say on what you want for yourself, you become dependent on people, and you're not able to evaluate whether the decisions you make are right because you're not self-sufficient to even make them in the first place. Here, Adrien has become dependent on Ladybug as his emotional support system, or at least he thinks he is. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's not great either. Because whilst being Catnoir is his responsibility, and although it wasn't initially his choice, he still chooses to be him because he wants to do it. He wants to protect Paris. It's the one thing he has a choice over. Granted, he also gets to see Ladybug as a bonus. Adrien wants to feel needed, protecting and having adventures is way better than being stuck at home and being ignored. So when he feels like he's not needed, he starts overthinking and feels the exact same way he feels when he's around Gabriel. This episode is proof. He also feels like if he's not needed, then he's automatically a burden, when that's not the case at all. Adrien renouncing this miraculous is selfless, but it's still selfish. And when I said this last time, a lot of people were not happy with what I had to say. Just because you think you're doing somebody a favor, sometimes you're not. Even when you think you have their best interest, you're not. Like I said, at this moment, Adrien felt like a burden on Ladybug, and so he gave up his ring, thinking that she's better off without him. But she stated this so many times. How many times has Ladybug told him she can't do this without him? How many times has she expressed gratitude towards him? And just because she doesn't say it every day, that doesn't mean she takes back everything she said and doesn't mean it. This might be hard to hear, but she cannot keep holding his hand through the part. She has her own problems and Adrien needs to eventually come to terms with it. It will take time and that's completely fine. I'm not in any way, shape or form blaming Adrien. He doesn't know his own self-worth because that's dictated by Gabriel. It's not something Adrien has been allowed to discover on his own, but as Cat Noir, he can. And this is what I'm saying about him slightly relying on Ladybug to be his emotional support system, because she's always telling him he's irreplaceable. That's what he wants to hear, what he needs to hear, but now he needs to believe it. Back at home, Marinette talks to Plague and the other Kwamis, and Plague becomes Adrien's #1 defender. If you think you're the biggest adrienagreste stan, sorry to break it to you, but that position has already been taken by Plague. Plague tells her that Ladybug has hurt Adrien by recruiting other heroes and leaving him out. And to be honest, I understand Plague cares a lot about Adrien, but he was kind of harsh on her. To me, it seemed like he was blaming her and not really trying to understand her point of view, but then he eventually did, so it's fine. Then Ladybug says something really interesting. She says she's been trying her best as guardian, but she needs to find a new Cat Noir that isn't in love with her because the current Cat Noir has been suffering from a heartbreak. So she's thinking, if I find a new one, I won't ever have to hurt Cat Noir again. In other words, she's trying to protect his feelings and spare him from heartbreak. And I think that's really selfless of her. Marinette isn't even thinking about how much she'll miss him. Once again, she's putting someone else's feelings above hers. Even if it upsets her, all she wants is for Cat Noir to not be hurt because she can't return his romantic feelings. So she heads to her balcony to try and find another black cat holder. But then she remembers she can't know his identity because it will lead to the end of the world. This is a prime example of Marinette showing signs of fear and trauma. It doesn't matter if Adrien is Cat Noir or a random person is Cat Noir. All she knows or thinks she knows is that whoever Cat Noir is, if they find out each other's identities, Hawkmoth would use that to his advantage. This is her fear controlling her decision making. A few minutes ago, Ladybug was using her rationale by thinking with her mind and deciding what's best for everyone, even if it's not what's best for her. And then moments later, she hesitates. Now she's stuck, and Marinette hates being stuck. Or better yet, Ladybug hates being stuck. She hates not having control, because not having control brings the unexpected. And when you have no idea what's in store for you, you can't possibly prepare. And when you can't prepare, you're vulnerable. This is her trauma speaking. This is why she absolutely does not want to know who Cat Noir is. Even if she is curious, it's a line she just won't dare to cross. Because in Cat Blanc, Marinette didn't have control over what happened. She doesn't even know what specifically caused it. The only thing she does have control over is making sure she does not know who Cat Noir is. So what does Marinette do? She tries to establish control by staying up all night, depriving herself of sleep, and trying to figure out a solution. Plague, luckily for her, tricks her into giving back the ring so he can find a black cat holder. He convinces her that him and Tiki can't be in the same place in case Shadowmoth finds out and tracks Marinette down. He comes up with a lie and tells her that Master Fu had 2 choices but went with his holder, Adrien. So Plague will give the ring back to the alternative choice and everyone will be okay. Also, I forgot to mention, whilst all of this was happening, we actually saw Adrien with pajamas, and we also saw Natalie finally walking again, but with this thing that supports her. I have no idea what it's called, but it's good to see her walking. Whilst Adrien was sad, he refuses to go to school, and Natalie tells Gabriel, to which he responds, he's an agreste, he'll get over it in a few days. Okay, that's a bit cheap coming from you, Gabriel. Remind me, my memory is a little bit foggy, but who's the one tormenting Paris and fighting a couple of teenagers for 2 jewelries to bring back his basically deceased wife? I forget, because that isn't the definition of getting over it, at least not in my books. The hypocrisy from Gabriel is honestly astounding. Anyways, Plag arrives and encourages Adrien to take back the ring but under a new transformation, new look and new name. Adrien questions if that's even possible because the first time he transformed, it felt natural, and that's why he had the suit he had. Plag says it is possible, but he just has to concentrate super hard. Adrien tries, but still ends up with the same suit. Now I want to talk about this. And this point is relevant for what happens at the end of the episode, which is why I'm so glad we had an episode like this, because straight away, Adrien and Plag admitted that Adrien thinks his true self is Cat Noir, which we know is not true, but they don't know that yet. It felt natural. Sorry, I don't buy it. Yeah, Adrien might not have been thinking when he first transformed in the Origins episode, but at the back of his mind, he had a clear image of what he wanted to be. He saw an opportunity to escape his boring life, to which he isn't allowed to be himself in, and that's why transforming came so easily to him compared to Marinette. He literally looked like he'd been doing this his entire life. Transforming came like second nature to him. He picked the suit, the hair, the belt, everything. It might have seemed natural to him, but that was his subconscious mind screaming, itching to pick a persona that isn't dictated for him by his father. And so that's how we have Cat Noir, completely different to reserved Adrienagreste. Plag and Adrien stay up all night deciding what his new name would be. Plag says Adrien needs to act very princely and reserved, no making puns whatsoever, blah blah blah. And finally he transforms into Catwalker. He introduces himself to Ladybug, who asks him a series of questions, and he passes with flying colours. She's kind of shocked how quickly he picked up on. Then they're interrupted by a supervillain, and Ladybug thinks it's Cat Noir akumatized when she looks at the bell. Of course, Catwalker, being Adrien, who is also Cat Noir, knows that's a senti monster, but emotions are clouding Ladybug's ability to realise that, even when Ladybug should and would know that's clearly a senti monster. She's just so worried that she accidentally caused Cat Noir's akumatization. When she realizes she's wrong, she beats herself up and calls herself the worst guardian, since she couldn't even tell who her ex-partner is. She also says she should have intervened when she clearly saw how hurt he is, and Catwalker realizes just how guilty she feels, despite the fact Ladybug shouldn't really be feeling guilty at all. Here Catwalker is verbally admitting his flaw. He says maybe Cat Noir was more sensitive than he looked. He's admitting that he's always put up a front and masked his feelings. This is important. How is Ladybug supposed to know something is wrong if Cat Noir goes out of his way to show that nothing is bothering him, even though something is? She's not a mind reader, and he realizes his mistake in not talking to her about whatever doubts he had about their partnership. And then he admits that whatever Cat Noir feels for Ladybug, that doesn't mean she has to give him all her attention. He admits she has every right to not return his feelings. And then it gets better. He states that Ladybug takes care of everyone, looks after everyone, and puts everyone's needs above her own. But who's there to look after her? He realizes that she has a lot on her plate, but that doesn't change anything between them. This is Adrien accepting that Ladybug does care about him. She does value him. Now he believes it. And this, my friends, is called growth. But let's take this further, because moon scene. By now, we already know what the moon symbolizes. Hidden emotions that the characters aren't aware they have, yada yada yada. Now, when this scene happened in the presence of the moon, Ladybug blushed. Not because she's in love with him, Catwalker, but because she only just met Catwalker and he appreciates how difficult her job is, but he didn't once make her feel vulnerable or make her feel incompetent. He stated he'll be the one to take care of her. I honestly think this is where she realized her feelings for Cat Noir, because Cat Noir has also never made her feel incompetent and useless. He's always protecting her and supporting her. She just needed somebody else, who ironically is the same person, to help her remember that. As Ladybug summons her lucky charm, she can't quite put it to use effectively. She's so distracted by Catwalker that her emotions disrupt how her powers work. Her lucky charm misleads her into thinking she needs Catwalker for it to work. She calls him perfect on multiple occasions, but realizes that being perfect is the problem. She needs her cat noir back because he isn't perfect. He's cat noir, and that's all that matters. Ladybug tells Catwalker that she doesn't need him, but Catwalker isn't upset or he doesn't feel left out whatsoever. If anything, he's happy. He states that all that matters is the mission, and he wishes her good luck. He's reassured that he doesn't need to be perfect for Ladybug to accept him. She accepts him for him, his flaws, his quirks, everything. So I've seen a couple of takes and opinions on social media about this scene, and it raised the question of, is Marinette in love with Adrien or the idea of him? I'm gonna go ahead and say she is in love with him. Sure, she's only in love with one side of him, but Adrien hasn't exactly shown all his sides, and when he does, I'm sure she'll love that too. Ephemeral is evidence of this statement. Also, when you're in love with someone, you literally see them as perfect. That doesn't mean you don't see their flaws. It's more of a case that their flaws are what makes them perfect. They're perfectly imperfect. Marinette accepted Adrien's flaws in the umbrella scene of the Origins episode, and in Ephemeral, it's not so much that Marinette was absolutely revolted by the idea of Adrien and Cat Noir being the same person, because when she realized they are the same person, her feelings for both of them made her love him more. All the things she loves about Adrien are all the things she loves about Cat Noir. Her brain stopped telling herself that they're different, but that's just my opinion. So she defeats the Senti monster on her own, and it's revealed that a little kid got akumatized because she lost her kitten, and Hawkmoth promised her for a bigger one. And Ladybug states herself that she too lost her kitten, referring to Cat Noir. I think it's super smart how KURO NEKO, the Senti monster, was a physical and metaphorical embodiment of Ladybug and Cat Noir's partnership, a reminder that they need each other. Adrien arrives home and asks Plagg if that means Cat Noir is his true self, and Plagg says he's not Cat Noir and he's not Adrien. He's both of them. He's the perfect son of a famous fashion designer, but he's also Cat Noir who wants nothing more than freedom and to have fun. One can't exist without the other. Without Cat Noir, Adrien is incomplete. Without Adrien, there is no Cat Noir. They're one in the same. And here's the answer to the question we've all been asking. Finally, we got a sunset scene where Cat Noir apologizes for leaving Ladybug. She states that she'll always need him even when she doesn't need him for a mission. And that's okay, because nobody can replace him. Again, a sunset symbolizes feelings the characters are aware they have, as opposed to the moon. And that concludes this analysis video. Overall, this episode was excellent. It had growth for everyone. Adrien, Marinette, Plagg. I loved it. To me, it's one of the strongest episodes of the season. A strong episode doesn't have to have intense action. No, a strong episode could simply just be character focused, and that's fine. We've gotten Ladynoir angst out of the way, maybe, and I'm happy this episode showed both characters in a good light. Neither characters are to blame, they both had development. Marinette wasn't painted to be some horrible person, and neither was Adrien, which is again why I'm going to say, in future guys, let's not get too heated over a trailer that will most likely dramatize things more than it needs to. But now I want to put it to you guys. What do you think of this episode? Hate it? Loved it? Expected more? Feel like I've left something out that I should have analyzed? Let me know down in the comments below. As for today, that's it from me, and I'll see you again next time. Bye!